So in addition to sending me over the fastest keyboard, EVGA decided to send me over their X17 mouse, which has an 8000 hertz polling rate. Extremely fast. I got some opinions about it. This mouse reminds me just a little bit of the Logitech G502. It's a very big mouse and very heavy mouse. And I mean, for the price, or I should say for the potential price, it's not a bad product, but I would like some improvements to be made. Let's get into it. When it comes to the design of this mouse, I can honestly say I'm really not a fan of it. It's just a little bit too gamery for me. It looks to a worse extent like a product from like 2014 or something like that we would see that fits into like one of those classic, you know, green or red gamer battle stations, because it doesn't scream modern to me. It's got a lot of features and a ton of functionality, which is very nice, and I'm sure a lot of people will see usefulness with. In terms of the design, it's just not for me. Let's go ahead and talk about the features. So the mouse 1 and 2 buttons are around 50 mils, and they also feature like this quick actuation technology, where basically the pre-travel is pretty much non-existent with the mouse, and they are pretty pleasant to use. But they are around 50 mils. I know that they don't really have the best reputation out there, so we hope that they actually last a really long time before giving any type of issues. Hopefully they don't give out any issues over long periods of time at all. The scroll wheel also features a side click mechanism as well that you can use clicking either left or right, so you can have up to 2 additional functions on that scroll wheel. Then you have a profile and DPI button below the scroll wheel, so you can set a ton of different profiles in the software, where you can also customize the DPI and polling rate of the mouse and whatnot, and therefore you're able to set multiple profiles, multiple polling rates, multiple lighting effects to know which profile you're on, and that just makes switching between your different functions a little bit easier and a lot. Then on the left side of the mouse, you have those 2 side buttons, which I don't really think are the absolute easiest to hit. For me, typically I usually just kind of rock my finger up a little bit, but I feel like the front side button especially is up just a little bit too high. That makes actuating it just a little bit more of a chore, instead of it being more so second nature like it typically is on most mice. And with this being kind of an ergo shape, that bothers me just a little bit. In front of these side buttons, you have a little light indicator that lets you know when you're using that sniper button that's just a little bit too high up, in my opinion. I feel like the sniper button kind of suffers from the same effect that the frontmost mouse button suffers from as well. It's just a little bit too high up, so it's not very convenient to reach. Now there is like a printed rubberized texture on the sides of the mouse as well, and it looks very cool, but to me, I feel like it makes my hand just a little bit more slippery than it does if it wasn't printed on there. I prefer the coating on the rest of the mouse, even though it's a little bit more of a fingerprint magnet. I prefer that a lot more to this printed coating on the sides. In terms of the sensor, it uses a Pixar 3389, and then you also have 2 lift-off distance sensors as well, and you can change those in the software. Personally, I'm not very sensitive to lift-off distance, so I didn't really see much of a difference when I was kind of messing with it a little bit, but if you are very sensitive, maybe that could be of use to you. In terms of the mouse feet, there are some black Teflon mouse feet, and they don't really glide necessarily all that great. They're just kind of okay, but I don't know if it's really the mouse feet's fault or if it's more so the weight of the mouse for me, because this mouse weighs in at about 105 grams, and then you do have 25 additional grams you are able to add to this mouse, which would put it at about 130 grams. So for me, that's kind of heavy, especially because recently I've been using a lot of mice that weigh between 50 and 70 grams is kind of my preference range. So using this basically being nearly double the weight, or actually a little bit over double the weight of a lot of mice that I've been using, is kind of different. It's not necessarily the most fun experience, but if you typically use heavier mice, then maybe this wouldn't be as big of a jump to get used to for you. In terms of the RGB lighting zones, you have like these light vents at the front of the mouse, and then you have have a light up EVGA logo at the back, and then you also have a light up scroll wheel as well. Now for the best experience, you're going to want to have this mouse directly plugged into your PC to actually get that full 8,000 hertz polling rate. And during the past couple weeks, I haven't really noticed any games patch notes, but it seems like games now work with 8,000 hertz polling rate, or at least some of them. I'm playing a lot of Call of Duty, a little bit of Valorant here and there, and it seems like they have been working just fine at the 8,000 hertz polling rate. Now again, this mouse is pretty much out of my comfort zone, and I don't necessarily think it's a bad product. The cable is not necessarily that great, so you're definitely going to want to use a mouse bungee, but I don't necessarily write this mouse off completely, especially when it comes to the price. So this mouse is about $85, and if you are an EVGA Elite member, you're able to get this mouse for $40, which, with that being said, if you want to experience 8,000 hertz polling rate, now if you have been an EVGA customer in the past year or so, you have a much more affordable way to do so, because now we have both this mouse and the Viper 8K at the $80 price point. And then if you have an EVGA Elite membership, this mouse just dropped to $40, which is half the price. It's double the weight but half the price. So if you want to try out the 8,000 hertz polling rate, see if it affects your game before you go ahead and spend a ton of money on a mouse, then this could be an easy entry for you to not spend a ton of money, especially if the weight and the shape of this mouse work for you. Personally, I would prefer something that's a little bit closer to the shape and weight of the Viper, so that's the 8,000 hertz polling rate mouse that I would go with. But if you're on a budget and this works for you, I say give it a shot. Why not? You won't know until you try it. If you don't like the G502, you probably won't like this mouse either, so that's a good point of reference. But if you do like the G502 and you want something faster, then that's where the X17 steps in for you. Now, if you're not so thrilled about the 1,000 hertz polling rate, there's also the X20 wireless variant of this mouse coming out as well, so I'll leave that link in the description below so you guys can check that out. But that's pretty much it. This one isn't for me. Hopefully EVGA takes this feedback and they go and they make a lightweight version of maybe not a lightweight version, make a different mouse, make an ambi shape lightweight mouse, and like 70 grams or 60 grams even with 8,000 hertz polling rate, offer for a similar price at like that $40 price point. If you're gonna sell it without the EVGA membership, make it like $70, so it's a little bit more competitive with the Viper. But that's pretty much all I have to say for this video. If you guys enjoy, feel free to drop a like, subscribe if you guys are new to the channel as well. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.